The story begins with an urgent message from the Galactic Council. The alien races are shocked and confused by a recent encounter with human diplomats. A group of alien leaders, including Commander Zorith, discuss the rising fear they have of Earth's diplomats. The scene transitions to a human diplomat, Ellen Carter, preparing for her first major diplomatic mission on a neutral alien planet. She's calm, unassuming, but the tension is building. Suspenseful hook. As Ellen arrives, the alien hosts greet her nervously. She doesn't understand why, until a few subtle hints suggest that humans aren't seen as peaceful diplomats. They're feared as dangerous creatures. The camera zooms in on her confident face, showing that she knows something they don't. End of part 1. The alien leaders begin to panic, wondering if they've underestimated humanity. Part 2. The secret weapon. 5 to 7 minute suspense. The revelation. Ellen Carter reveals she's been trained in the art of negotiation, but she's not just a diplomat. She's also trained in combat, psychology, and manipulation. Flashbacks show her early training. Humans have learned to play with fear, using their ancient history of conflict as a weapon. The aliens don't realize that this seemingly calm human diplomat is, in reality, the embodiment of human survival instinct. Suspenseful hook. The alien leaders watch as Ellen uses her charm, calm demeanor, and a hidden threat to persuade the leaders to sign an agreement. One alien leader refuses and challenges her. The room falls silent as Ellen turns the tables with an unexpected move. A demonstration of psychological warfare. End of part 2. The alien leaders are shocked to realize this isn't just diplomacy. This is manipulation they've never seen before. Part 3. The human advantage. 5 to 7 minute twist. The game changes. As the diplomatic talks progress, the human diplomats make a quiet, calculated move. They release information about past alien invasions and how humans have survived against overwhelming odds. The aliens had thought humans were easy prey, but they hadn't considered the one thing that sets humanity apart: resilience. The alien ambassadors start sweating, realizing that humans have survived wars, apocalypses, and constant threats. This wasn't just survival. It was evolution at its finest. Suspenseful hook. Ellen calmly speaks about humanity's history, showing how humans turned their most dangerous experiences into power and strategy. She drops a shocking truth. You aliens think you understand war and peace, but you have no idea what it means to fight when everything is lost. End of part 3. The room goes dead silent as the alien leaders start to reconsider their entire view of humanity. Part 4. The turning point. 5 to 7 minute rising tension. The aliens' fear. Ellen, now fully in control of the diplomatic mission, senses the growing fear among the alien representatives. Some try to resist her influence, but they can't break her calm resolve. The story reveals that Earth's diplomats have discovered the secret of alien fear: humanity's ability to endure extreme pressure and fight back, no matter what. The aliens begin to panic, realizing that human diplomacy isn't about treaties or agreements. It's a form of psychological warfare they never anticipated. Suspenseful hook. An alien diplomat suddenly challenges Ellen, calling humanity primitive and claiming they are unworthy of joining the Galactic Federation. Ellen's response is chilling. You underestimate the primitive species that once conquered their own planet and now rule galaxies. End of part 4. The alien diplomat goes silent, terrified by the implications. Ellen knows they are on the verge of something bigger. Part 5. The final deal. 5 to 7 minute climax. The ultimate showdown. As the final moments of the negotiation draw near, Ellen gives the alien leaders an ultimatum: sign the agreement or risk provoking humanity's wrath. The aliens, now fully aware of the human diplomat's true power, start to crack under the pressure. Their peaceful demeanor turns to unease as they sign the treaty, knowing that any future attempts to challenge humanity could lead to disaster. The humans, having successfully negotiated, walk away with more than just a treaty. They've gained respect and a new position in the galaxy. As the diplomatic meeting continued in the grand hall of the alien planet, Ellen Carter sat quietly at the negotiating table, her hands resting calmly on the surface. To any outsider, she would appear as just another human diplomat, a well-dressed representative, prepared to negotiate a treaty. But to those who understood the stakes, Ellen was far more than what she seemed. The alien ambassadors, who had gathered from across the galaxy, exchanged nervous glances. There was something unsettling about the humans, something they couldn't quite place. Their civilization was known for centuries of conflict, and they had expected these Earth diplomats to be no different. But the humans, led by Ellen, were proving to be a force unlike any they had ever encountered. The alien leaders, including the massive and imposing Commander Zorath, the reptilian leader of the Council, were starting to feel the weight of their decision to engage in diplomacy with Earth. Zorath, with his cold yellow eyes, was the first to speak, his voice dripping with disdain. Humanity, Zorath sneered, believes that a simple treaty can solve its problems. You think your words can persuade us? You underestimate the might of our forces. His claws clicked menacingly as he leaned forward, trying to intimidate the human diplomat. Ellen, however, remained calm. Her eyes were focused, her breathing steady. She was not intimidated. Instead, she smiled, a small, knowing smile, as if she had heard this kind of talk before. This was not her first negotiation. Commander Zorath, Ellen replied, her voice clear and unwavering. I don't intend to persuade you with words alone, but I believe words can be more powerful than weapons when used properly. She paused, letting the weight of her statement sink in. The alien leaders looked at each other in confusion. Weapons? Was this human diplomat making an indirect threat? Ellen could see the fear beginning to creep into their expressions, but she didn't give them time to speak. You see, Ellen continued, leaning slightly forward, humans aren't as naive as you think. We know how to fight, how to survive, and how to win. And we know how to negotiate. She paused again, her eyes flicking to the guards standing near the door, just out of sight. The way we survive is what makes us different from you. Zorath's eyes narrowed, but before he could respond, Ellen raised a hand to silence him. The room, heavy with tension, seemed to hold its breath. We've spent centuries on Earth learning how to deal with every kind of threat, every kind of war, every kind of chaos, Ellen said slowly. We didn't just survive, we learned how to turn the tide in our favor. She looked at each alien leader, making eye contact, and for a moment, they could feel the weight of her words. We've learned the art of surviving the impossible. Suspense builds. The alien leaders started to exchange looks of nervous uncertainty. The stories they'd heard about humanity had been exaggerated, yes, but they had never heard of humans negotiating with such cold precision. They had expected desperation, perhaps even weakness, but what they were witnessing was something far worse. One of the alien delegates, a smaller but no less menacing figure, leaned forward. You think we're scared of your tactics? He asked. His voice was high-pitched and frantic, as if his confidence was slipping. We are the most powerful empire in the galaxy. You have no weapon to defeat us. We'll crush your puny species. Ellen, however, didn't flinch. She stood up slowly, walking to the front of the room, then turned to face them all. You misunderstand, she said, her voice like ice. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to show you what happens when humans are pushed too far. She walked slowly, deliberately, her eyes never leaving the alien leaders. You've seen what happens when you challenge us. We fought off invaders, overcame cataclysmic disasters, and battled for survival in ways you can't even comprehend. Your greatest strength, Commander Zorath, is fear. Our greatest strength is resolve. There was a long pause. Ellen's words seemed to hang in the air, weighing on the alien diplomats, and a cold shiver ran through them. They were not prepared for this. They had assumed that human diplomacy would be like any other species, a game of words and threats. But humans were different. They weren't just negotiating. They were playing a much deeper game. As the tension in the room grew thick, Ellen gave a slight smile. "I'll leave you with a thought, Commander Zoreth," she said, turning toward him. "The human species is not just about war. We are about survival. We always find a way to adapt, to overcome, and to rise. You think your empire is strong enough to crush us. But I promise you this, if you try, you'll be facing something you've never faced before." She paused, letting the room fall silent. "We will fight back. And we will win." Suspenseful hook. The room fell into an oppressive silence. For a moment, it felt as though the air had thickened, as if the weight of the words just spoken had crushed the very atmosphere. Zoreth's eyes, once filled with contempt and superiority, now betrayed a flicker of something deeper. Fear. The alien leaders shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unsure of how to proceed. They had come to this meeting with the intent to control and dominate the humans, but Ellen's words had left them uncertain. Her calm demeanor and quiet confidence had shaken them more than they realized. Ellen returned to her seat, her posture straight and commanding. "I suggest we move forward with the treaty," she said simply, as if nothing had happened. But the aliens couldn't shake the feeling that they had just lost control of the situation. End of Part 2. The suspense builds, and the alien leaders are left shaken, realizing that humanity is not what they thought it was. There's more to Earth's diplomats than meets the eye. They're not just negotiating, they're calculating. And now, the aliens are beginning to realize they're dealing with something far more dangerous than they could have ever imagined. The alien delegates sat in stunned silence after Ellen's bold speech. The room, once full of confident voices and harsh challenges, was now heavy with uncertainty. Zoreth, the commander of the Galactic Council, stared at Ellen with narrowed eyes, trying to understand what had just transpired. His mind raced, but he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that had crept into his thoughts. The alien ambassadors, most of whom had witnessed countless battles and diplomatic failures across the galaxy, could not fathom the calm but determined human before them. They had expected these humans, these Earthlings, to be weak, unrefined, even desperate for peace. But instead, they had encountered something far more disturbing. Humanity wasn't just looking to negotiate. They weren't here to ask for peace. They were here to demand it, with the full weight of their history and resilience behind them. And that was far more terrifying than any weapon they had encountered. Ellen's voice broke the silence. "You still don't understand, do you?" she asked, her words dripping with cold certainty. "We didn't come here just to talk. We came here to make you see what happens when humanity is pushed into a corner. When we're threatened, we always find a way out. We are survivors. No one has ever beaten us." Zoreth finally broke his gaze, turning to the other members of the council. Their faces were filled with fear and confusion. The power dynamics of the room had shifted. They had expected the humans to bend under pressure, to show weakness, but instead they had shown something far more dangerous, a willingness to fight and an understanding of tactics that was beyond their reckoning. Flashbacks to humanity's resilience. Cut to a flashback of Earth's turbulent history. The image of an ancient human battlefield, charred ruins, scattered bodies, and the remnants of a brutal war, flashes across the screen. Humanity had fought wars for millennia, enduring genocides, natural disasters, and environmental collapse. Every time they had fallen, they had risen again. The Black Plague, an event that wiped out a third of humanity, only to have humans rebuild and conquer even greater threats. World War II, a devastating conflict, had left the planet scared, but it also sparked an unprecedented era of technological advancement and international cooperation. The space race, where humanity fought tooth and nail to explore and conquer the stars. Each of these events, these survival stories, had one thing in common: resilience. Humans, through sheer force of will, had overcome every obstacle in their path. And now, that same drive was standing before the alien diplomats. Back to the negotiation table. Ellen didn't stop talking. The alien leaders watched her, their expressions now a mix of curiosity and wariness. The atmosphere was tense, the weight of her words hanging like a storm cloud. "You've been fighting wars for centuries," Ellen said, her eyes scanning the room. "But none of you know what it's like to fight for everything. Not for control, not for conquest, but for survival. You've never known the desperation of a species that refuses to go extinct. You've never faced an enemy that simply refuses to die." She emphasized the last part, her voice lowering to a near whisper. She took a slow breath, letting the words sink in. "And that," she said, standing up and walking toward the large projection screen behind the table, "is your mistake. You've seen humanity as a small, weak species with no place in the greater galaxy, but we have survived on our terms. That's why we're so dangerous." The projection screen flickered on, showing an ancient Earth image, a simple human warrior standing tall amid a field of destruction. His clothes were torn, his face bloodied, but his stance was unbroken. The image was symbolic of human perseverance, battered, bruised, but standing proud. The realization sets in. Zorath could no longer hold his silence. His voice rumbled deep from his chest. "You claim your species is resilient, but resilience alone doesn't make a species worthy of survival. We've seen worlds fall to better, stronger creatures. You think this will make us afraid?" Ellen's expression didn't change. "I don't expect you to be afraid. But the galaxy should be. You've underestimated humanity, Zorath. That's your first mistake." At that moment, the air in the room thickened. It was as if the walls themselves had started to close in, tightening with each passing second. The aliens' eyes were wide, but their fear wasn't just about humanity's survival. It was about something else, something deeper. Ellen leaned forward slightly, her eyes locking with each alien leader one by one. "We didn't come here to beg for peace. We came here to show you how stubborn we can be. We came here to show you that you don't scare us. And if you try to destroy us, we will adapt. We will fight back. And we will win." The turning point. Zorath's claws dug into the table. His patience was wearing thin. "You talk of war and survival like it's the only thing your species knows. But do you really think the Galactic Empire will let you speak to us like this? You're just primitive beings from a backwater world. The galaxy doesn't revolve around you." But Ellen was unfazed. "You're right," she said coolly. "We may be primitive. We may be from a backwater world. But we have learned. And that's what you don't understand." She took another step forward, her voice growing more intense. "We've learned how to fight, how to survive when everything is stacked against us. That's what makes us dangerous." Her words hung in the air like a thunderclap. The aliens had underestimated humanity's ability to endure, to push forward, and to survive against impossible odds. Now they realized they had just made the most dangerous mistake of their lives. The alien leaders were still in shock, their minds reeling from Ellen's words. For the first time in this negotiation, their arrogance had faltered. The human diplomat, Ellen Carter, had done the unthinkable. She had turned their intimidation tactics against them. The quiet, steady force she embodied was more terrifying than anything they had prepared for. She wasn't just negotiating. She was playing a deeper game, one that they had never encountered. Commander Zorath, the imposing leader of the Galactic Council, was the first to speak, though his voice trembled slightly, betraying the fear he was trying to hide. "You talk of survival and adaptation like it's your greatest strength," he growled, his cold yellow eyes flashing. "But what happens when your species is confronted by an opponent stronger than you? What then, human?" Ellen remained seated, her gaze unwavering. She wasn't looking to engage in a battle of egos with Zorath. Instead, her voice was calm, almost dismissive. "What happens then?" she repeated. "We adapt. We always adapt." The chamber was silent. The alien delegates, once so full of confidence and superiority, now sat in stunned silence, their eyes fixed on Ellen. The room seemed to close in on them, the weight of the moment pressing down on their minds. They had come here with one goal, to bend humanity to their will. But instead, they had found themselves on the brink of realizing something far worse, something they could never have predicted. Ellen Carter stood at the head of the table, calm and poised. She hadn't raised her voice once, but her words had cut deeper than any weapon. She had shattered their belief that they were the supreme force in the galaxy. The aliens had underestimated humanity. And now, they were facing the consequences. Commander Zoreth, his claws still gripping the table, finally spoke again. His voice was quieter now, laced with uncertainty. You speak of survival as if it's the only thing that matters, as if that makes you invincible. But what happens when the galaxy turns on you? What then, human? Ellen met his gaze unflinchingly. Her eyes were full of something far more dangerous than anger. Determination. We've faced worse than your threats, Zoreth, she said, her voice steady. We've been pushed to the edge of extinction and come back stronger every time. We don't need the galaxy to like us. We don't need your approval. We only need the will to survive. And we have that in spades. Zoreth's yellow eyes widened as if a dawning realization was creeping up on him, a growing fear he could not shake. You truly believe that? He muttered, his voice thick with disbelief. I don't just believe it, Ellen replied. I know it, and so will the rest of the galaxy. The final decision. The alien council sat still, unsure of how to proceed. The balance of power had shifted in an instant, and they were now confronted with the undeniable truth. Humanity had done the unthinkable. They had survived against impossible odds. They had pushed back against their greatest fears. And now, they stood in front of the galaxy, not as weaklings begging for mercy, but as unbroken warriors. Ellen's next words rang out like a final verdict, her voice cold and unwavering. Your empire may be large, Zoreth, but it is not invincible. And neither are you. We won't be cowed. We will fight for our future, no matter the cost. Zoreth stood frozen in place, his claws still digging into the table. His empire was not just facing a diplomatic defeat. No, the more he thought about it, the more he realized the deeper threat. Humanity had not just fought wars. They had evolved. They had become something far more terrifying than any weapon or alien fleet. They had become survivors who would never surrender. Ellen slowly turned, her back now to the alien leaders, but her confidence was still palpable, radiating from her in waves. Tell the galaxy what you've learned here today, she said softly. Tell them that humanity cannot be defeated, that we are not your prey, and we never will be. A single question. As the tension in the room reached its peak, Ellen made her final statement. You came here to destroy us, to break us, and you failed. She paused, her eyes narrowing slightly, and then added, What will you do next, Zoreth? Will you try again, or will you accept the fact that humanity will never kneel? Zoreth opened his mouth, but no words came out. His mind was racing, torn between his empire's pride and the crushing reality before him. He had seen fear in the eyes of his fellow leaders. He had seen doubt in their once immovable stances. And now, there was only one thing left to say. This isn't over, he said, his voice a low growl. We will be back. But know this, human, you have awakened something in the galaxy that will never forget what you have done here. Ellen's expression didn't change. We'll be waiting. The last word. As the alien delegates filed out, murmuring among themselves, the doors to the chamber closed with a final, resounding thud. Inside the room, Ellen stood alone, her back still to the table. The weight of the moment was not lost on her. She had done what she came here to do. She had shown the galaxy that humanity was not weak, that they were not a species to be dismissed. They were dangerous in a way the galaxy had never understood before. Ellen turned slowly to face the projection screen, which flickered with images of Earth, its landscapes, its people, its cities. A species so young, so fragile in comparison to the ancient civilizations of the galaxy, yet so unbreakable in their will to survive. Humanity would never bend. She smiled faintly, a quiet confidence in her eyes. "This is just the beginning," she whispered to herself.